What is that sound coming from Conservative Central Office? Is it staffers, whooping with delight at the success of Chidima Adetshina, the newly crowned Miss Universe Africa and Oceania, marking another win for Nigerians on the world stage? Or are these the sounds of joy and exultation at the excellent media coverage given to Kemi Badenoch's demand for an end to the family farm tax? During her campaign to be Tory leader, Badenoch put forward her credentials as a media-savvy political operative. They were much in evidence at this week's London protest by farmers. "The tractor tax is cruel and unfair," she declared with righteous indignation. "It will not raise any money, but it will destroy farming as we know it in this country." Badenoch cut through with her TV-friendly soundbite, embellishing the Tory narrative that the new Labour government is destroying the fabric of the nation with its lack of grip and its class war. First, Labour ministers came for parents with kids in private schools. Then they targeted the farmers, with what the Daily Express newspaper dubs Chancellor Rachel Reeves' budget inheritance tax grab. Who will be next? The week had started well for the Conservatives, with another culture war hot potato for Badenoch to sink her teeth into. Alison Pearson, a Telegraph newspaper columnist, is in hot water with the police, who are investigating what some sympathizers have dubbed a Kafkaesque word crime. The affair revived concerns over free speech in the hard-right media, which presented Badenoch with an opportunity for performed outrage at this latest threat to a sacred civil liberty. "People need to stop wasting police time on trivial incidents," the Tory leader concluded, after police officers were dispatched to Pearson's abode to discuss a tweet she published a year ago, which may have contravened anti-racism laws. "We shouldn't have journalists getting visited by the police for expressing opinions," Badenoch added. "That's absolutely wrong. We need to look at the laws around non-crime hate incidents." But wait. Isn't the Tory party supposed to be a firm supporter of law and order? What is the world coming to when the Conservative Party's leader feels it necessary to question the merits of a police investigation into an alleged breach of Section 17 of the Public Order Act? Are the police supposed to just ignore the complaint? That sounds suspiciously like the two-tier policing system that Badenoch and her right-wing friends so despise. The optics of Essex police turning up, without an invite chez Madame Pearson, to probe some questionable social media activity, may not look great, but it is hardly a good look for the new opposition leader to be undermining public faith in the country's police, by questioning an official inquiry which has yet to be concluded. But choosing the laws that you wish to respect is now a standard feature on Britain's right flank. Think the European Convention on Human Rights is preventing the swift deportation of asylum seekers? Then, just get rid of it. The UK must leave the Strasbourg court ASAP and write its own legislation, making the process far more manageable. 3 schoolgirls are killed in Southport. The suspect is now awaiting a trial in the new year, but don't let thoughts of prejudicing due process get in the way of you expressing fears right now that the government and the police may be part of a huge cover-up. Don't wait until after a judge and jury reach their verdicts. No. Just carry right on. The appropriate scrutiny you are calling for must be immediate. And are you not appalled at the length of sentences handed out to those responsible for far-right thuggery during the summer riots, including attacks on property, looting, the firebombing of asylum seeker accommodation, and the burning down of a police station? Of course you are. Thankfully, there are serious people who believe a review of judicial sentencing powers is more than justified. Take to the newspapers and let the people know that those jailed after the riots are political prisoners and patriots. But, and this is an important point, anyone involved in the criminality and wanton destruction of property in the Hare Hills district of Leeds earlier in the summer must face the full force of the law. This might be politics in the era of permanent social media distemper, but is it conservative? Badenoch has said again and again that her conservatism is based on a commitment to first principles. Surely, support for law enforcement and state institutions should be at the top end of that list of priorities. It is sad but true that politics regularly triumphs over principle, and the Pearson affair was such delicious media bait that Badenoch simply couldn't refuse. By robustly defending the Telegraph hack, Badenoch strengthens her image with the hard right and its media organs. It brings the hard edge of reality to worries that free speech in the UK is under serious threat. And it nourishes the hatred of the so-called blob and the bizarre sense of persecution that sections on the online right have imported from America. Pearson's problems with Plod may also be a welcome distraction from newspaper gossip that former Premier Rishi Sunak's resignation honours list could lead to by-elections. The prospect of opening up the voting booths again, just a few months after the party's July meltdown, is bad enough. Badenoch is rumored not to want a by-election so soon after her coronation, as local issues notwithstanding, it would inevitably become a referendum on her leadership, as much as that of Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's stewardship of the country. And a new poll on how Badenoch is seen by British voters did much to puncture the balloon of optimism floating above Conservative HQ. The Ipsos Political Pulse, conducted between the 8th and the 11th of November, reveals that more than half of British voters believe it is unlikely that Badenoch will ever become Prime Minister of the country. Some 38% of those questioned fear that she will be ousted by the Tories before the next election. These numbers are a reminder of the scale of the challenge Kemi Badenoch faces as Conservative leader, said Kieran Pedley, Director of UK Politics at Ipsos. The public is skeptical she will change the Conservatives for the better, with many doubting she will lead the party into the next election at all, he added. The Ipsos poll numbers reinforced some Observer newspaper research, which shows that Badenoch is less popular as leader of the Conservatives than both Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson when they took over at the top of the Tory ticket. Around 46% of those who voted Conservative in July's general election said they approved of the party's new leader. Some 46% of respondents reported neutral feelings towards Badenoch. But there is some good news for Badenoch supporters. Liz Truss is the worst-performing party leader of the past 5 years, in terms of starting popularity, The Guardian newspaper reported gleefully. It may be that the sobering Ipsos and Observer opinion polls were conducted amid a blizzard of headlines reviewing Badenoch's performances at Prime Minister's questions. Conservative unfriendly outlets like the Huffington Post got very excited when describing Badenoch's miserable failure to shine in the spotlight. It was noted that Badenoch got her facts wrong. The Tory novice was skewered easily by the Prime Minister and his backbenchers. She was gaffe-prone. A pall had descended over Tory HQ, as staffers suffered buyer's remorse over the new leader pick. And on it went, as though a little PMQ discomfort for Badenoch was the political equivalent of former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng abolishing tax rates and sinking the UK economy to boot, as part of Liz Truss' mini-budget dash for growth. Come on. Cut the sister some slack. It is far too early to rip at Badenoch's throat with a political machete. But that said, given that Badenoch was not most Conservative MPs' first choice for leader, she could do with a few wins at PMQs and some more positive news headlines if she is to enter 2025, the year of local elections and perhaps by-elections, with a good head of steam. For now, Badenoch is not in any serious danger and can count on glowing reviews from The Spectator magazine, edited by Michael Gove. The former MP carries a reputation for political intrigue and is long rumored to be the puppet master behind Badenoch's successful leadership campaign. Badenoch may have also discovered this week that she can rely on the support of the leader of the Yoruba party in the UK. Some Nigerians have been throwing shade at Badenoch for disparaging comments she made about the country which hosted her for 16 years. But now, at last, a countryman has come to her aid. Step forward a certain Dr. Olusala Oni Basegun, who according to the Freedom Online website, heads up Britain's Yoruba party. He is fighting Badenoch's corner, and penned a thunderous article for the Freedom Online website, driving engagement via the headline tease, "Why Fani Kayode is Angry with Kemi Badenoch." Who is Fani Kayode and what made him angry with Britain's Kemi? Were they childhood sweethearts? Did a land or business deal go wrong? Was it a family quarrel that made them such bitter enemies? The curious couldn't wait to learn more from the article, only to be left frustrated by the slowly revealing clickbait. There was no insider commentary, no gossip, nor even a tasty tidbit concerning Badenoch's sojourn in Lagos. Instead, the piece was a thinly veiled opportunity for Dr. Basegun to settle scores with a rival Nigerian and to push some ethnic politics. Dr. Basegun doesn't like Fani Kayode, who he said had betrayed the Yoruba. Having devoted much of the article to a fierce critique of Fani Kayode, Dr. Basegun then brought up the subject of reparations for slavery. Like Badenoch, he appears doubtful of the wisdom of the reparations movement, but this skepticism does not prevent him from demanding a narrower form of compensation from Britain. Like a pork barrel politician, he wants reparations just for his people alone. Albion bears responsibility for what he describes as the Yoruba Holocaust and redress is needed. Dr. Basegun writes, "The debt of transatlantic slavery must be paid. The Yoruba were the most enslaved Africans. The persistence of Yoruba culture in the Americas attests to that. The British were the primary Yoruba enslavers. The British, therefore, owe the Yoruba a specific debt that they must pay. The Yoruba Party in the UK wants a Yoruba homeland in reparation." This is the sort of intelligent discussion we should be having with Kemi Badenoch. Eager listeners of this podcast will remember that the then unmarried Kemi Badenoch, when standing as the prospective Conservative candidate for Dulwich and West Norwood in 2010, committed herself to intervening in Nigerian-British relations. Candidate Badenoch told voters that if elected, local Nigerian voters would have someone on the inside, able to influence British-Nigerian relationships. It will not be about personal gain, she assured her prospective constituents. It would be another 7 years before Badenoch finally entered Parliament. Now that she is just one positive general election result away from being Prime Minister, will Badenoch seize upon the advice of Dr. Basegun and bring to the attention of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office the subject of Britain's treaty obligations towards Yoruba land, the domain of her ancestors? If she is so tempted, Badenoch had better not let word of her diplomatic efforts reach the ears of the lads and lasses working on the New Culture Forum podcast. They reacted to Badenoch's 2010 promise to South London voters, as though it was a key moment in an episode from Season 1 of Homeland and she was a latter-day Manchurian candidate. In its Tory election special, entitled The Disturbing Truth About Kemi Badenoch's Career, the New Culture Forum's contributors used Badenoch's effort to curry favor with Dulwich Nigerians to damn her candidacy for the leadership of the Conservative Party some 14 years later. They quoted Badenoch's election pledge to be a Nigerian in Parliament who would try to improve Nigeria's national image. The podcasters alerted listeners to Badenoch's promise to stand up to people who are cheating and robbing Nigeria, comments which they termed bizarre and inappropriate for a woman running to be a British MP. They were also an admission that the assimilation of Britain's Nigerians had failed. People would surely be worried, they argued, if this was a Muslim, prioritizing the interest of, say, Bangladesh or Pakistan. This was less a dog whistle and more a blast from the New Culture Forum's political foghorn. The podcast also discussed the politico-cultural climate that facilitated Badenoch's rise to the top of the party and other disgraceful surrenders aiding the conquest of Britain by the loony left. The suggestion that Badenoch is a Nigerian asset, doing the bidding of a foreign state, does not stand up to the public record, as Badenoch's many Nigerian critics will testify. But as soon as the going gets tough, this questioning of her commitment and patriotism is likely to be a feature of the commentary on Badenoch's leadership, for a hard-right fringe which may be struggling to accept that a black woman now heads His Majesty's loyal opposition. There will be other unwise Badenoch quotes that will be retrieved from the far reaches of the internet and used with Trump-style, birtherist mendacity, to damage the Conservative leader's image. The new culture forum's distinct coolness towards the Badenoch political project and her status as a right-wing conservative savior is an early signal that Badenoch's leadership victory has not settled the destiny of the Conservative Party. Factionalism remains within the Tory Big Tent, and there are some who are still to be convinced by the leader. Dr. David Starkey, the British historian banished from decent society after he went on BBC television and blamed black culture for the collapse of the white working class, claims that Western democracies are failing their majority populations because they have been captured by minorities. In a sermon to a fringe PopCon meeting at the 2024 Conservative Conference, Starkey declared that only a populist could now take back control and reclaim democracy for the majority. Is Badenoch the populist leader he dreams of, who can return the Tories to power? Will Badenoch be able to pin successfully all of Britain's problems, especially the further decline of the NHS, on the misadministration of the Starmer government? Does Badenoch represent enough of a new broom for the Conservative Party to make voters forgive the 14-year Tory psychodrama of Theresa and Boris and Liz and Rishi? Badenoch's political future will be littered with traps placed by enemies in the Labour government and by rival groupings within her own party. Robert Jenrick may have joined Badenoch's shadow cabinet, but is he entirely satisfied with his posts of Shadow Secretary of State for Justice and Shadow Lord Chancellor? Are they sufficiently high profile, from a media point of view? Do they provide the right sort of platform on which to build a national reputation? Is the Wolverhampton MP, who has long nurtured leadership ambitions, staying loyal, to see whether Badenoch can survive the first 2 difficult years of this Parliament without being substantially weakened? Has Jenrick calculated that after the local elections, the Westminster environment could present him with opportunities for some quiet, informal, below-radar canvassing, given that Badenoch is not inclined to work the tea rooms to drum up support and has a reputation among MPs as something of a bruiser? Conservative MPs will have noted a recent Ipsos poll showing that Kemi Badenoch has a net favourability rating of -18, with 21% favourable and 39% unfavourable. She may prove to be more an Ian Duncan Smith than a David Cameron. Kieran Pedley, director of UK politics at Ipsos, says his poll surveys show that Nigel Farage enjoys the highest favourability rating among the British public. He added, "It remains to be seen whether Farage can convert that into increased support for Reform UK moving forward." This is an encouraging scenario for Jenrick, Nigel Farage's political mini-me within the Conservative Party. If Badenoch is not up to the Herculean task of reforming the party and returning it to winning ways from such a small base, then the disappointment and uncertainty this creates could be to Jenrick's advantage. That is more than enough reason for him to stay in the game, remain outwardly loyal, and continue his courtship of Conservative MPs and party members. These are the raw material of future podcasts. We here at our Master's Blankets will be watching as events unfold. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Please like, share and subscribe to our Master's Blankets, as your support really helps us to keep going. We'll be back soon with another episode of Kemi Can't Win. Hope you'll join us on the next one.